If you guys want to say something, continue to ask questions. I'm going to be asking you lots of questions. Use the chat. That's huge. We are recording this for people in the future. And that's the easiest way to score a goal in lacrosse. Theme this week is special teams and what the different special teams in lacrosse are. Obviously, anybody who's played hockey would know, of course, that there's power play and shorthanded. Some people call it penalty kill. Man down is probably the wrong reference these days in terms of gender equity, but so shorthanded and power play are two special teams, but we'll also talk about what makes a good special teams player. Some of the principles. So I've got, just like you've seen principle documents in the past, kind of one pagers with the little bubbles of the important aspects of, it's been defense, transition, and offense so far. We have the same sort of thing for power and short here today. And then my blog, I don't know if any of you guys have been reading it, but every week I've been doing a blog for the Thunderbirds on just the different basic aspects of the game. But this week is actually special teams, so it's great. You guys will get a sneak peek at that blog, and we'll walk through it and kind of show you how I would teach special teams from the ground up, and lots to learn and lots of cool aspects to it, specifically things like timing. And I remember when I was first learning, power plays, I was just so amazed at how much the little things made all the difference in actually making the play work, instead of, you see it on paper, but when you actually bring it into reality, it basically has to be executed perfect, and for the timing for a lot of these plays. And that was always a cool thing for me. So hopefully you guys feel the same way. And then we'll take a walk through basically some more advanced plays that aren't in the blog. And we can just talk about kind of some of the progression that you can see. All the plays kind of have different variations and different options. So lots to discuss. That's just on the power play. So we'll also be talking shorthanded. But does anybody know of any other special team in lacrosse that you're aware of, where you're taking a special, you might substitute the word unit in there, but what other teams do you know of?
There's the defense, there's the offense, there's
okay,
the power play and shorthanded.
So defense and offense to me there's nothing special about that, right? There are perhaps, lines which are, you could run set plays 5-on-5 too, but 5-on-5 is actually, it's an aspect of the game separate from special teams. When we look at the game, at the end of the day, there's kind of four major things that we look at that are kind of the major statistics in a game. And so 5-on-5, even strength, we look at who's winning that goal differential there. We look at who's winning the transition game. So how many fast break goals have you given up? How many have you scored? Are you ahead? Are you down in that overall total? Then we look at the special teams. And the special teams is again, a game within a game. And if you can win like 2 out of 3 of just those right there, you're probably going to win the game. The X factor is usually the fourth one, which is loose balls. And whoever wins the loose ball battle kind of says something about the effort being put in by the team as well, as opposed to just, whatever, you're just shooting the lights out, or you've had just a penalty filled game where you're just able to just execute just in that area and somehow come out with a win because of it. But I mean, that's usually not the case. Usually it takes a full effort. But again, special teams is what's the focus. So we've said there's a power play unit. We've got a shorthanded unit. Does anybody know any other sub-unit that they see get thrown out on the floor, maybe if they're watching a game?
An overtime unit?
An overtime unit? There is something similar, and it is one of the units, but that's not what we call it. And we also use it in a 6-on-5 scenario. both defensively and offensively. And we call that the last minute defense or offense. Again, that's kind of reflective of the power play and or short man, because you're probably going to have the same units plus one extra person. But it is unique in that the 6-on-5 play is a lot different than the 5-on-4 play, is a lot different than a 4-on-3 play. So you do have a special unit there, somewhat similar to these two, as I mentioned. There's one more like really distinct unit that we're forgetting about here.
Someone in the chat said a face-off guy.
Good. The face-off unit. Sorry, I don't have my chat open there. Thanks for letting me know. So the face-off unit, AKA loose ball team. So, in the summer, I mean, we do something different on our team with the Thunderbirds because we have the best face-off guy in the world. So that changes things in the face-off game, as you guys might know from some of our earlier sessions. But, we do have different, we try to get our best loose ball players out there, generally speaking. But when you have somebody that good, we're taking the risk of putting 2 offensive players on the offensive side of the ball on a loose ball team, and deep in the zone at that, to allow our guy room, right? So if we didn't have that, we would probably have just 2 kind of like, I would call them transition players, but guys with offensive upside, but they're still kind of D guys still, because you risk your O guys taking a beating and getting slashed or hacked by some guy that's unnecessary when they already take a whole bunch of whacks up front, right? But our guys normally don't get touched. But especially in summer ball, though, you're often throwing out your 5 best loose ball players to go get you the ball. So that's a special team. It's listed. There's starters, there's backups. Almost every team I played on has that, kind of from junior on forward. The only other one that's not there that I would consider a team is what I call the ball back team. And that's when you, late in the game, the other team's basically trying to kill the clock. And, or it could be you. It could be them trying to get the ball back from you, and you're icing the game. You're killing the clock. You're eating it. You're basically, what's going to happen is, and we're going to talk about this in our next session on special situations, but usually when they're trying to kill the clock, the other team doubles, they pull their goalie, and then they lock everybody else off man to man, double the ball. So, that's something that we practice a lot. You actually wouldn't think how much this gets practiced. It doesn't usually get practiced early in the season or mid-season even, but as you approach the playoffs and games are 1 and 2 goal games, these things are crucial. And I've seen so many games won and lost because of this, and knowing exactly what to do, exactly what your role is, and putting people in the best positions to be successful is kind of what it's all about when it comes to special teams. Just quickly, so what would you consider what makes a good special teams unit, or what makes a good special teams player? And I kind of like going through this because you guys always get creative, and we know a little bit about role players and specialists on certain areas of the floor. But what about like teams that are successful on special teams? What do they have? What makes them good?
Communication.
Communication is big. Okay. Offensively, you're talking about the play before you go out. Defensively, you're talking about what you see and everything else. And yeah.
Leadership.
Nice. I like that. You know what? Sometimes you see it in hockey, but like you've got that older veteran player who 5-on-5 really isn't much of a threat, but there's such a special teams threat because they've been doing it for so long, and they have that poise and understanding of the nuances of that unique situation. Like Joe Thornton comes to mind with the Sharks, but like, it's like often leadership, people who've been there, people who've earned the opportunity even, there's something to be said about the rookie phenom who comes in and giving them their shot, but everything at the end of the day is earned and deserved. So often you're starting your season with more accomplished players, and then the younger players get the opportunities as, people are held accountable to essentially how they produce in the unit. So it's pretty cutthroat in that sense. But anything else?
I was thinking a good social bond or a good friendship around the whole team's unit.
Yeah, I like that. Bond, friendship. We talked chemistry. Like it is really fun when, you're out there on the power play and you got your good buddy on the opposite shooter and another guy on the point, like, guys that you've been connecting with, a guy in the crease that you feel confident that you can just rip it to and they're going to quick stick it in. And, that type of stuff, is built over time. And that's where bonds and trust and friendships and chemistry, that's where that all happens. So that's a great one for sure. Feel free to say what you think makes a good special teams player. Okay. A good defender. Sure. You know what? And that even is important for power play. Everybody is a defender always. You might think you're an offensive player, quote unquote, but if you're not trustworthy on defense, I can't put you in these situations if you're just sucking for goals and not prepared to run back on somebody on a fast break. So good one. Commitment. I like that. Someone who's committed, who goes over the plays, who cares, who's studying the game. These little things that we're talking about, again, it's the same people that are against the wall with their stick in their hands 24/7, or even the case of a defensive player, somebody who plays defense aggressively in multiple sports. That's a great look for a defender, because there's so many principles that you can bring so yeah, that's another good example. So, I mean, off the top of my head, I would say, we got something else? Yep.
For a good special team player, being able to read the play.
Okay. Reads the play. To me, that's kind of like a poise thing. I would call that poise, like not forcing it to the first thing you see per se, those 50-50 passes and stuff, you got to take risks to score goals too. And that's why, we say 40-60, 50-50, 60-40. And like at a certain point, you're sacrificing the odd turnover for the high quality opportunity, a little feed inside while it's there. But you got to know the difference. And so reading the play and poise, certainly. Anything else? All right. So, I mean, one that comes to mind for a player is that they're a threat. We know on offense, we always want to be a threat. You can be a threat defensively too. You can be, a threat to get breakaways, for instance, as a defender. And so that keeps teams accountable sometimes. They can't put that big slow guy with the big shot up top because there's just too much speed there. So being a threat offensively or defensively, I mean, you bring an X factor, you bring an intangible. You got to have, you can't be just average at every skill. There is a place for that person. In fact, I'm probably that person, like generally average at most skills. And the things that I bring to the table are just unique in like character. Loose balls is the biggest. I'd be like a rebounder in basketball, even though it's kind of different because it's not as much related to size. But anyways, yeah, you got to bring something to the table for these situations. And leadership, for instance, like in a 6-on-5 against, it's like that experience of being in that situation with the game on the line goes a long way, because you sometimes see little things that other people don't see, and you make real-time adjustments on the fly. You might have some play that you throw out the window, and that's like a leadership thing. That's a poise, reading the play, and so all good stuff. Um, I'm gonna switch gears because I feel like a lot of that was offensively oriented. So we'll just take a look at this first principle Venn diagram on being short-handed. You can forget about like the stuff here on when you're in the offensive zone. Don't worry about that too much. I want to start in this top left corner with the red boxes. And so, firstly, in general, you're expected to identify the situation, know the time in the game. Where it says black and yellow, those are just special calls. Basics, knowing your lanes, where you're supposed to stand, and where your stick is supposed to be. Obviously, you got to box out in front of the net is crucial because you're down a check or like a defender already. So you got to be real tough in front of the net, real tough on loose balls. And really you need to be a good loose ball person somewhere along the line, because winning a 50-50 ball in a short-handed situation is huge, right? Like that's massive. So those are just kind of some general things. So when you're coming off the bench, I mean, right away, you're assessing the situation. You're talking about what you're seeing with your teammates, and then potentially adapting if need be. I mean, you might go out on defense in a box and then see something and decide that you want to switch to a diamond. Or you're expecting some player to come out who didn't end up coming out. So the two high guys change positions and move their sticks from being in the middle to being in the outside lanes, with covering the passes to the shooter a little bit more. So just little things where you're trying to put yourself in the best position at all times. Maybe there's some sort of opportunity there to put even a little bit of pressure if they're taking their time coming onto the floor, which is generally discouraged. But I'm just saying, you're assessing. And then, so once you kind of get into your box or diamond, which are the two systems generally played. There's some hybrid versions of that, like a trapezoid, and, just leave a split box where you leave somebody kind of open. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But generally speaking, you are going to, let's say, get into a box. Everybody's going to know what the rules are on cutters, what happens when the ball goes behind the net, when the point player drags to their strong side, starts backpedaling. If there's a pick or a seal, we know we fight over all seals all the time. Picks, you might have to go with the roller for a second and then pass them off to the low guy because you're in a zone. But generally as well, you're kind of looking to see what kind of set play the other team might be running. Okay, at the highest level, we've studied the other teams. We know their plays. Generally, they're going to throw some wrinkle or some different play from week to week. But still, they'll stuff down their bread and butter play down your throat, probably in some random order. But if you know what to look for, it's kind of like Bill Belichick in football, and like seeing the formations of the other team and seeing, that when that person goes to set the seal, who you've seen set the seal so many times, you can kind of anticipate what's about to happen, and have a backup plan, even if they switch that. But so yeah, we would either be playing a box, a diamond. You can do a rotating box and or a rotating diamond. A split box, as I said. You might lock hard on the shooters and give the pass to the point guy, oddly enough. If it's just like a feeder up there and we think that the person at the point is actually the weakest threat, we might kind of subtly encourage that person to shoot and tempt them to take it, even though we know they're a pass-first person. And then lastly, in a 4-on-3 situation, as Kirsten mentioned, you have a triangle, which would be either a 2-up or a 2-back triangle. So 1 up, 2 back, or 1 back, 2 up. So when I go through my blog, we'll take a little bit of a look at that. I don't really discuss the split box, but even with the split box, I could leave a shooter a little bit more open and kind of cheat a little bit more to the point and the other shooter and say, you know what, we think you are the weakest shooter. We want you to shoot, and we're going to say you beat us. We're going to cheat to everybody else until you step up and snipe, and which can rattle people's confidence if they're given shots. Like we in Victoria, when I used to play for the Shamrocks, we had an all-star left side with Jeff Shatler, Ryan Benesh, Corey Small. The list goes on. And then on our right side, we had 8 combined games of NLL experience. So teams would 5-on-5 and special teams would cheat so hard to our lefties, and our righties would just be allowed to just literally just like walk right in, but the goalie would square up, all the off-ball quick sticks would be locked off, and they would just shoot it right into the goalie, and it was embarrassing for them. Honestly, in front of friends and family, is just like everybody in the building knew that we were like giving them the shot. And that's essentially a split box where you're actually leaving somebody open. You might even leave a crease player open, is I've seen before. So, or somewhat open. But yeah, and then everything else kind of applies from our other aspects to the game. I mean, if there's a loose ball, we decide whether we're going. You know, we want to get a good jump on it, and we know that we don't leave the crease with our 1-for-1 rule unless we're 90% sure we can get the ball. Otherwise, you might see instances where you do want to jump the ball carrier or lock hard just for a second and then come off it. And then you can even rotate on the fly. And when that happens, it's essentially like one of our guys has sold out and they went to get they went for the ball carrier. They thought it was an open shot and they got caught off balance. And so that maybe they got face dodged or something. They're walking up the middle. So now everybody rotates is the rule. So if one person goes, everybody goes. So we could have a rotating diamond, and that's just a small rotation. That's calculated. Everybody knows that it's going to happen when the point passes to the weak side shooter. When the weak side shooter passes back, we're gonna rotate. Well, you would also rotate, and everybody rotates in a full exchange to the position beside you in some situations. So without confusing you too much, it can get pretty intricate. And lastly, if you do get a transition opportunity, first and foremost, you're not cheating for fast breaks in these scenarios a lot of the time, because a 4-on-3 is so much worse than a 5-on-4. So if you cheat for a fast break and then they somehow pick off the pass or whatever it is, they strip it from a guy trying to force some transition or a fast break. Well, now the other team gets it and they walk in 4-on-3. And most high-level teams can break a 4-on-3 down into a 1-on-0 on the goalie pretty quick, or a very high-quality shot every time. And that's why you'll see 4-on-3 percentages in success rates are in the neighborhood of 70-75%, versus a good power play operates generally at around 50%. A good short-handed unit usually operates at around 60 to 70%. So anyways, those are some of the basic aspects there of being short-handed. I'm going to switch over to the power play. I see somebody added something to the chat there. Missed it, but so power play. So again, don't really worry about this defense stuff. This is when the other team gets the ball and basically is playing 4 against R5 in the defensive zone. So what we would normally do is just do a box and 1, and if an offensive guy got run back, we would put them in on who we want them to be on, or whatever it is. But so generally, like obviously we talked about communication, is important in special teams. Good special teams do it well. So they're talking on the bench about what they're seeing, what happened the last play that they ran, the last time the defender jumped over top of the seal. So they're going to hit the roll as the guy fights over top. They're going to pass it underneath them. Just little things that could, help the play be successful. So you're talking about that. Usually your offensive coach is probably like drawing up a play as the other team is going to the penalty box or calling it out, at least right before you go out. So in terms of ball movement, we ultimately want quick ball movement, Stuff around the perimeter is safer, and you can generate good shots by moving it around the perimeter generally. I mean, but skip passes will ultimately lead to the high success things a lot of the time. And you're overloading certain areas as well with these different plays that you're doing. But yeah, quick ball movement is really, you get the defender's heads turning, and then it's an off ball cutter that they kind of don't see or whatever it is. But even on the power play, there's kind of like general things you would do. So if a point player starts to backpedal towards you, I don't have it queued up over here, but if you can imagine, they drag towards you, and you're on the strong side shooter. I should probably draw this up, actually. You would basically seal for that person every time. Doesn't matter if that play was called, and it is a play, and you can call it. But at the same time, if somebody drags towards you on a power play, it's a sign that you need to seal your check in. So I'm gonna draw this really quick. It's hit on there and a ball. So if this righty right here were to drag, which we know is a back pedal, towards this strong side shooter here, as soon as they start backpedaling, that's a sign to that shooter that they need to seal like this and push their check in. And their check might fight over top of it, in which case this could be a shot right here almost every time, a pretty good one, depending on the time on the clock. Or if they fought underneath it here, then they could just kind of just jump over it here and stay on the high side of it and get a shot right here. But so you'll see later that that's a play as well, and whatever. And you can even, this backdoor crease is coming up when they see that, because they might be able to get a quick stick over there or whatever it is. But we just know that when we drag, that's what we do. So just to keep the flow of things. So, and if the ball gets passed low, we also know that you would cut off ball, and this guy would just come up and replace if the ball got low. So no coach is ever going to get mad at you for that. It's worth it, even if you're running a set play when the ball gets back to the point here, which I haven't really talked about, because most teams will do this first. They'll go once around the horn. So that guy will pass to that guy, passes down, passes up, passes back to him. And this is for timing, by the way. He passes down, passes over, passes back up. And once it gets back here, often that's when a play will start. We call that going around the horn. And as soon as the ball hits this guy's stick, if it was the last play, he would then backpedal. This guy would be well aware that he's going to be sealing his check in, and this person is just going to just bomb this shot onto the goalie or hit this backdoor crease over here. But again, the point I was actually making was that if the ball goes low, even during this, nobody would really ever do this, but just as a general rule, when the ball goes low, off-ball cutter cuts through. It's the same as our offense, and this person comes up. So kind of just wanted to just prime you with that, because it kind of will come into our set plays when we get there. Actually, you know what? It's probably a good time. You can see the plays here are left empty because every team has different plays. In Nova Scotia, when I was coaching there, by the way, we name our plays, so you know exactly what to do when I just call it from the bench. You've learned it and practiced enough and whatever. And usually we name them like stuff that you can remember. So that last play, the drag play, we used to call Digby, which was, Digby is like whatever, a town in Nova Scotia. So the person at the point, who's the quarterback, as we know, the point specialist, when they call Digby, let's just say they got a shot before that and then they got a reset. Well, okay, maybe we only called one play on the bench. So what now? Well, it could be a freelance where I say, give you guys the green light to just go and whip it around and just basic principles of off-ball cutters and drags and whatever. You could set a pick for anybody and probably develop a good chance. And yeah, so don't worry too much about the transition either, other than to know that you have to get back and watch out for those breakaway players. So what I wanted to do now is just walk you through this blog that I just wrote on special teams, which a lot of what I talked about so far is there. So special teams are groups of players designated to perform certain duties during certain basically special situations in a game. Power play and shorthanded are two of the most notable special teams based on their frequency in the game. But also there's the face-off loose ball team, ball back team, and last-minute defense, which we discussed. Most special teams have 2 units, so I brought that up, and it can depend on how tired the group in front is, or even an individual player as well, who might need their backup to come in for them. Or that person could be in the penalty box, who knows? But the lineup's subject to change, and often it's like who's playing well. And as a coach, you shouldn't just go to the well and always put the same people out and pigeonhole them as your starters, because it's going to demoralize everybody else on the team. And really, if guys aren't producing, they should be held accountable just like anybody else. And it's a huge privilege to obviously, be on a special team, and you're essentially being recognized as a specialist with certain skills. I mean, if it was beginners, everybody would have an opportunity, and there would be no special people that I would be putting in as a coach. I would give everybody a chance to do everything. But so yeah, just wanted you to know that there are starters and backups. We talked about how leaders are likely to be those people that are starters and stuff to begin with, at least. And, some people play themselves into that role. But the important thing there, though, is to know exactly where in the lineup sheet you are. And if a coach calls your unit out and you don't show up on the floor, that's one real good way to get off that unit, especially if it happens repeatedly. Okay. Your backup, who that is. So you're kind of working in tandem. That if you're high on the penalty kill on the left side, you know exactly who is your backup if you're tired. So that's on you too, to make eye contact with them on the bench, to tell them you can't go when the coach calls the unit, whatever it is. But you need to know it. And so the coach will, post the lineups well in advance, usually an hour before the game at the least, sometimes days in advance. But yeah, you need to know exactly what unit you're on. The power play in itself, okay, we know it can be 2-minute and 5-minute major penalties that can happen. That will put you on a numerical advantage or disadvantage. Most 5-on-4s have this 2-2-1 formation, which is those standard offensive positions: 2 crease, 2 shooter, and 1 point. But there's also this 2-1-2 with a guy in the middle and 4 guys in a box. It's an old school way that they used to do the power play back in the 70s and 80s. They used to, almost everybody ran their power play that way because the sticks weren't as good. They couldn't shoot as hard a lot of the time, and the goalies had less equipment. So if you're in tight right in the middle, that's a huge threat. And but yeah, so we'll talk about that and how that can be utilized. Usually, if you got a real big guy who's a great picker and you stick him in the middle and he's got some kind of soft touch, it can be great. But 4-on-3 situations, how do we do that? When there's a 5-on-3, what do we do? Which, by the way, usually is the 5th player just stands at center floor and becomes a rover. So in a 5-on-3, you actually still just play 4-on-3. In box lacrosse, most teams, I have seen some teams do plays with 5-on-3s. I actually think there's room for innovation there. But, Yeah, and then the big thing to know is as well is that when you lose the ball as a power play, you should double team. Like obviously you take away reverse transition or fast breaks, but if you can double team the ball, they have 10 seconds to get it over the rag line, it's called. And obviously once you get over that line, you can't cross back over either. So there's certain opportunities there to strip the ball, and it's not always in the best interest. We wouldn't do it all the time, but there are times and you know where you would be doubling right away if you lose the ball as a power play. Nonetheless, so usually before any set play or shot is initiated, a team's most skilled players will begin first by passing the ball once around the horn, which you kind of saw in that video there. Again, early diagonal passes should be avoided, aka skip passes, as well as early shots with very little movement. You see that a lot your guys' age. So yeah, it's essential to have ball movement and just general movement to get quality shots. So, I mean, you can see some pictures here, but usually your best shooters are up high, and there's different rules and set plays and you know things, as I mentioned, such as dragging and filling and cutting that are just common that should be expected. But kind of the biggest thing that you need to know is this triggers piece. And again, once around the horn is one way to trigger a play. You could do what I call a quick hitter as well and just walk out and just run your play right away. There's a time and a place for that. Sometimes I'll even mix it up, and not too many people do that. Actually, I haven't seen anybody do this, where I just go halfway around the horn. So instead of going, so where the teams think that you're going to go all the way around the horn and run your play the next time you come back, I run it a little bit quicker. So it throws off the timing of the defense, might have some rotation they want to do. And if I go at a time that they're not used to, well, my play is more likely to be successful over the long term. Most plays, when you have a numerical advantage in a power play situation, involves some sort of overload, which is usually like a seal, two people in one area of the box or one area of the diamond, okay? Basically overwhelming one of the defenders and getting open as a result. So again, these are some of the basic plays here. So the drag and seal, which is the one we kind of just went over in some pretty good detail. So yeah, it's literally, it doesn't show the pass around the horn, but as soon as this pass comes back, this person just backpedals to the strong side shooter, the same-handed shooter. They set the seal coming around for a shot, or you could see the backdoor option. So here's where you start to see some of those wrinkles I was talking about. So here's like the fake seal. So this person then, they backpedal here, and so this defender thinks that they're about to get sealed, so they're probably trying to get over the seal at this point. And this guy's like, perfect, because I'm going to go all the way across and set this seal over here. And now instead of shooting, this person can hit this person with a pass behind the seal for an open shot. So just a little wrinkle goes a long way. I've even seen, I've got another variation of this, and I'm not going to show you, but all off of the same basic play structure. Here's another example. So this is just a basic pick play, pass to the weak side, pick the strong side player comes around for a shot, or player rolls to the middle, gets the pass back, and has the shot. So there's two options there. We heard earlier about having a read, making a read. These plays, both that I just showed you, are very much reads. And so you're able to do them just by reading. Does this guy who's getting sealed try to fight over top of it to stay with this guy? In which case, this roller is probably open. Early on, though, especially if they haven't seen the play, this basic seal is likely to work. So, or this basic pick is likely to work for this player to come over top and just bomb a shot from basically the middle. So, I mean, everybody knows these plays. The crazy part is, as simple as those two plays are, you still see them in pro. The most basic stuff ever, which tells you that it's just all about doing it properly, doing it right with good timing, exactly when the triggers tell you. So we'll talk a little bit more about triggers here if I get some time. But I just want to make sure that you know that you're defensively responsible in all this as well. So you got to react after you shoot off of these plays. Otherwise, it's so demoralizing to give up a shorty, as everybody knows. And so you gotta do your best and be responsible there. Here's a look at that dice formation, the 2-1-2. We call it dice because it looks like the 5 number on the dice. And it's a good, if you call out dice on the floor, everybody knows to switch into this formation. And there could be a couple plays off of it. I'm just showing you one here, which is more of just, again, another read play. And really, this person in the middle should be hanging out on their proper floor side as much as possible. Why? Well, you guys should know this answer, but I'm kind of running hard on time, so I'm just going to answer. They can roll over here. If this person picks over here, they can do it. Like if this pass came over here, the middle guy could attempt to pick right here and see if that would catch him off guard and just take a shot right over top of that. But to hang out on the proper side means there's 2 options every time when it goes to this weak side over here. So again, it can be useful, catch teams off guard. They don't have a plan in place for this. And who owns this middle guy right now? Is it this guy? Is it this guy? Is it this guy? Is it this guy? And there's rules, because as they move, it's kind of somebody else's job, and you need to be aware and you need to communicate who's got them. So for instance, when this ball's right here, okay, this guy on the off ball side is sagging in a bit. So if this person rolls off of this person can actually help on the roll by sagging in. They don't need to be way out here when the ball's right here. So that's just one example, but so there's a lot that you can run off that, to make a long story short. Short-handed quickly. Again, you have your box. Here's our basic box here. So our rules are 3 steps across the top. So this lefty and righty here, this means their sticks are in the middle, probably because this point player is a really big threat. But we only actually ever go 2 half steps this way, 2 half steps this way, 2 half steps this way, or 2 half steps this way. So we call it the 2-step rule. And up high, you don't want to get running around. Like if this guy passed over here, I wouldn't run all the way over to him, because then if he passes it back here, I got to run all the way back. So I'm splitting kind of the 2. I'm actually willing at some point to give up this shot to the shooter and not chase them as they drag down into this soft spot and get real low. It's like, go ahead. If you want to take that on a power play, we can live with that, especially with this low guy in the shooting lane, which is in line with that back post, which is the same as our helping man-to-man defense with these low guys. Okay? Don't let any off-ball quick sticks through. Get in that passing lane. Get in these shooting lanes. So the box is the most common. Again, it gives a little bit more to this point player, where if that's Mark Matthews, probably you might be thinking more of a diamond, because you don't want him shooting from up there. So then you've got your diamond. So this is like a locked diamond here. It's kind of rare. Most teams who play a diamond will do a rotating diamond, and I'm not going to get into that today. Maybe I'll weave that into special situations next week. But essentially, in the box, you're locking off the shooters and the creases primarily. And here you're basically encouraging your creases to beat you. You're taking away their top 3, and you're saying, I'm willing to play 2-on-1 across the crease here. And if you've got a really smart defender, experienced here, knows how to play this cat and mouse game, we call it, between the 2 crease players, where if this person actually comes into 45 degrees, I'm still able to get a stick on them, but I'm actually hanging out on the back side of the play, covering that pass across, and I got good stick to pick that off sometimes. So box and diamond are our basic ones, and then here's the triangle. So again, I said if it's a 4-on-3, here's the 2 up, 1 back triangle, which usually it depends, Noah, on the goalie that you have. Okay, even with the diamond, if the goalie prefers shots from the crease and they feel like one of their strengths is shots in tight here, we might play this because of the preference of the goalie. Versus even down here, okay, we're basically playing 2-on-1 across the top, where these guys can pass back and forth and maybe bomb a shot from the outside, but they also can't get any quick stick dunks, so the goalie can actually come out and challenge a little bit more here. You can see I've moved this guy a little bit over towards the ball side. In theory, they're like dead center in the middle, and you need somebody quick and smart up there as well. So shorthanded execution, it's just all the little things, all the little habits and concepts we've learned on defense in terms of keeping your sticks up, knowing the situation, communicating, being in position with your body, with your stick, and then just competing for loose balls, blocking shots, battling. If you have to take a minor interference, again, we're playing tough in front of our net. We're not about to give up a rebound goal in a power play. Like it takes if you floor a guy in front of the net on a penalty kill and the ref gives you another penalty to put us down another man, they're basically probably going to get booed off the floor. You'd have to do something really, really bad in that situation. And so really tough in front, hard on and off the floor, all those little things will go a long way. And so, yeah, just concluded things with saying that, like, I talked about this different aspects of the game, and games are won and lost in special teams. And as much as they are in the transition game, in the 5-on-5 game, and the loose ball game. So it's a major pillar in the sport. And so, yeah, you got to stay out of the box is the moral of that story in terms of, if we're talking special teams specifically, if we're talking power and shorthanded is more or less what I'm saying. We got to stay out of the penalty box, and we need to know how to execute when we do get opportunities on the power play. We got to be 50%. So if you run your stuff and your triggers and the timing of the play and you've studied the play and what you got to do, you got to be flawless. You'll never be out of a lacrosse game, because what happens? You're down 5 goals. Guess what? It's just natural. Refs are going to start calling penalties. And in lacrosse, it's very easy to come back. You ever saw that comeback we had this year with the Thunderbirds, 10 goals? It's, anything's possible, especially if you have a power play that can score. So, yeah, just highlight the fact that the backups are just important as the starters, need to be ready at all times. Like here's another common play. It's a read play as well that I'll leave you with. And you guys are basically free to go explore, man. Go look in this playbook and find plays that you like. And, if you're allowed in groups of 5 or whatever it is, go run power play. Go run it at the box. You don't have to have contact with anyone. Stay your 10 feet away or 10 meters away and just run plays. Send each other plays. Go explore the playbook. Here, power plays. Set plays, 5-on-5, just walk through them, build up the speed and get good at, we know that at the end of a play, you want to catch the ball in stride, and so where you're coming into a pass and getting it off real quick, that's how a play will work. Here's one. We used to call this the lax play because it's kind of like an X, but you skip pass to the far side crease. As soon as the ball leaves this person's stick, the off-ball shooter cuts. It's a timing play. So this guy naturally turns and looks, and this guy cuts right off his ass behind him. It's also a read, though, because if this guy does go with this guy and follows him into the middle, which is actually his job, well, this guy just fills, remember the concepts, everything. I taught you all the fundamentals and basics. They all apply always. So this guy fills in behind that when this guy cuts through. And so now this guy can pass either him or him. We've got somebody isolated. We've got them overloaded. And that's what plays are. There's so many plays that aren't even invented, fellas. I've been inventing drills and plays here for the past 5 years. It's been a ton of fun. You guys can go in on the demo site and just, drop drills, drop plays. And, if you're passionate, that's what you do. You love it. When we started this playbook, I just said to my business partner, Looney, who's the offensive guru, I just said, buddy, just write down every play and I'll take it from there. And we've done that. And actually, I'm updating this full drill book this year, but the playbook is coming next, probably by next year. I got about 100 plays not even on here that I've just been sitting on. So, this is the fun stuff, right? This is the, this specialized stuff that makes us who we are as Canadians, able to do these things in tight spaces and execute with high precision. And so, yeah, hopefully you took a little bit out of that today in terms of talking some special teams. Always a pleasure on my end. And I don't know if anybody has any questions, but feel free to roll out here. But yeah, that was a lot. I thought we had a pretty good discussion in the beginning, so I'll just open it up here quickly. If anybody has anything, what's the green line? Says Mark Alexander. Oh no, that's when somebody, on the side there of the diagram. We do have a green play. I was confused for a sec, but yeah, if that's it, fellas, enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening here. I haven't eaten dinner. I'm going for a late one. Been a long day. I've been on CLA meetings. Cheers. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.